The European Le Mans Series makes its final trip around Europe to Portugal, to Portimão, a track that came into being in 2008. And in fact, whilst being called the European Le Mans Series, we've not been to this track. 2010 was the last time the Le Mans Series visited this venue. The swoops and climbs of Portimão circuit, highly abrasive surface as well, something that the teams that run either Dunlop or Michelin tyres will need to be wary of come the 4-hour race tomorrow. But conditions could hardly be better after a tricky day yesterday with some low-lying cloud. It was misty, it was rather cool for southwest Portugal. The sun has really come out today. Not sweltering conditions, just pleasant in the sunshine to be hanging around the paddock in a t-shirt and shorts. And the qualifying drivers for the GTs are already installed. Andrea Bertolini ready in the 51 car. So thank you for joining us. We've switched things around a little bit this weekend with ELMS qualifying coming before the Michelin Le Mans Cup quali a little bit later on today. And the two races actually taking place on Sunday, and it'll be Johnny Palmer and Bruce Jones to my right to take you through it. This is a nice place to come racing, isn't it, Bruce?
It is an absolutely magnificent circuit. Johnny, you and I have been out and walked around the vast bulk of it. What it has is terrain, lots of it, ups, downs, twists, and I don't know how to pick a favourite corner, but I actually really like the whip at turn 10, uphill, left hand into a bit of a dip, and it carries on up, but it doesn't just keep going up or down, it goes up and down at all points. And it's not entirely smooth either. Take a look at the cars that we will through this session as they come out of the 16th and final corner. I went down to look at them this morning around there, and the tails of the cars bouncing up and down, but overall it's a fantastic facility, and I can't believe that more championships do not come here. The fact that our hotel is on the coast and we look out from our hotel to the seaside gets a vote as well. But lovely autumnal sunshine here, and a little irony as the 6 cars in the GTE class go out. The car that was fastest in their group is the only one of the 6 that doesn't have an outside chance of the championship title, which is the Proton car number 77. There it is, the Porsche. But really tight in the GTE class. And a few new faces this weekend, even at this late stage in the championship. Emmanuel Vinca joining Beachdene AMR team, invited by Andrew Howard. You went down to see him this morning and found him a very nice young man.
Yes, absolutely. I lived for a good deal of time a few years ago to be at university in the UK. He was at Oxford Brookes, I believe, doing motorsport engineering, and now doing a Masters in Milan. But yeah, command of English, very good. He's raced in the UK at club level, done some racing in KTMs, and then onto European GTs. These are the championship leaders, though. TF Sport by a point, the 90 car. Sally Yollet, Ewan Hankey and Nicky Team, and Ewan Hankey at pains to me earlier on today to stress that the balance of performance, as far as they're concerned, seems to be favouring the Ferraris again this weekend, and he feels that the Aston will struggle this weekend, not only the 90 car but also therefore the 99 Beachdene.
What we can see in the background of the Choctaw, in fact, a beautiful high-up shot looking down over the circuit. You can see those twists and turns. That's almost the end of the lap. Turn 13 on the right-hand side of your screen, 14, 15, and it dips and it flattens. Then at turn 16, top right-hand corner, comes up a little rise, and you drop into that compression to start the start-finish straight. So plenty for the drivers to think about. But a few clouds in the sky now, having been an unbelievably bright sunny morning. You can see the clouds in the background. Yesterday afternoon it was grey. On Wednesday it was raining, so mixed weather. But I think the rubber is now going down on the tracks, and the rubber now being brought out to the cars. So what can the Aston Martins do, the two of them, up against the 2 Ferraris and the 2 Porsches, even sorry, 3 Ferraris.
2, 1. Its exit is green. Its exit is green.
So 2 takers. It's Cameron leading the way out. Duncan Cameron in the spirit of race.
Automatically deleted.
Oh, okay.
A little bit of an extra message there from Eduardo Freitas. I have to admit, I thought he was just doing the countdown for the cars to be released.
So did I.
We will pause at times to be able to hear our race director at his own home race as well. And Eduardo Freitas, well and truly being revved up by the whole spirit of the weekend. I think he's going to be directing some kind of swimming race later on today. There is a pool here at Portimão, around at the back of the media centre, and some of the teams will be doing something with inflatable flamingos. I have no idea.
Inevitably, Johnny, so might you. Right, the reminder, that message from Eduardo de Freitas was any lap which is a track limit excess reported on it will be deleted.
Yes.
There will be no mercy.
Okay.
So 10 minutes, very, very quick fire. Only one driver from each of the cars that gets a chance to do so. It's your first chance seeing circuit riding on board with the JMW Motorsport Ferrari. You see a lot of sky when you race here. That's up over the top, and then you dive down into the dip again, and let's just see where that is on the circuit. Yeah, that's up at turn 10 at the top of the hill. And then you can see the grandstand in the background, karting circuit off in the distance. But the point there, from there it doesn't look too steep, but when you're in a car, you cannot see the track. You can just see your bonnet, and then down you go into the compression. And of course, this being the circuit it is, immediately you buck up and have to fire off, in this case, to the left-hand side.
Yeah, that's a really tight left-hander at the top of the hill. After that swoop, the left-hander just before it. Then a relatively slow right-hander, turn 11, and then this long, lingering right-hander that is really tricky to get right. The camber is also something to be mindful of here, with a maximum bank or camber of 8% in places. The biggest rise, 6.2%, the maximum fall, 12%. Well, that's got to be the plunge out of 9, hasn't it, in the third sector, downhill where the track just disappears from you. And you can't see it beyond the bonnet of your car. Here's the 55 Ferrari, still with a chance of taking the championship. Matt Griffin currently driving that. It's Andrea Bertolini, as I described, in the 51. Will Stevens in the 66, the JMW Motorsport car. Matteo Cairoli in the 77 Porsche Proton Competition entry. Nicky Thiem at the wheel of the TS Sports Aston Martin. And Darren Turner taking qualifying duties this weekend in the 99 Beechstein AMR Aston Martin. Ross Gunn not here. Emmanuel Vinca, his replacement, but Vinca sitting out qualifying. DT does that, and we haven't yet had a competitive time come in. Somewhere around the 1 minute 45 marker, probably. We'll see. Well, what do they do in practice?
Best time this morning, 1 minute 42.966 from the Proton Competition Porsche, and that really was a step ahead of the rest. In fact, it wasn't. Right at the end, great improvement from the JMW Motorsport Ferrari. Put that second fastest 0.2 of a second down. So waiting for those first flying laps to be completed, hopefully without anybody having run off over the curbing. They were given the warning, no doubt, before they went out, and then as they went out by Eduardo Freitas. Out to the edge is fine, out over the edge, not so good at all. Your lap will be deleted. So there's big grandstands sweeping around the outside of the final corner. Little compression out of turn 15, up over a rise here, and this is where it gets bumpy, Johnny. Just down there, you can see the tail of that yellow, red and black Ferrari bouncing up and down, then into this compression, and up the start-finish straight. There you can see it, but when you walk it, you can also really, really feel it on the back of your calves. It's much steeper than you think.
Yes, and the track drops away at the end of the main straight as well. It's a long straight here where the cars, certainly the GTs, will be on the rev limiter, the plunge downhill, and then hit the brakes into the right-hander at turn 1, which is quicker than you might think. Just a dab of the brakes, settle the car, turn in, and obviously the grip's been building since yesterday. Very green track, most of the drivers were saying, for Friday after all that rain, but much, much better this morning. Will Owen reporting that their car, although they made quite a few changes to the 32 in the LMP2 class, far better than it was late last night. But a beautiful evening here yesterday as the sun started to set and FP1 continued on. 2 90-minute sessions then for practice, leading into just a 10-minute opportunity to post a good time in each of the 3 classes. And early doors, it's Nicky Thiem, although now say Matteo Cairoli, in fact, goes across the line and takes provisional pole with still 5 and a bit minutes on the clock. 1:43.470. A decent benchmark then from the Italian, but that car can go faster.
Yeah, time still to come, and you can see that message has got through to them so far from Eduardo Freitas. You could just see Cairoli, they're going right out towards the curbs and almost going, oh, hold on a second, and just bringing it back a little bit, so caution required. As pointed out just a short while ago, 1 minute 42.9 was the best lap for these cars this morning. Track conditions should be continuing to improve. As Johnny pointed out, a lot of rubber has been put down, and it needed to be put down after the really, really heavy rain. The drivers really struggled for grip when they first went out yesterday, but with each session it should be getting faster. Fastest now, that time from Cairoli, 1 minute 43.47 seconds. 470, and just waiting to see, will it be toppled? No, not by the Spirit of Race 51 Ferrari. That stays in 3rd position in the hunt, and it really is a hunt. Only just over 4 minutes remaining in this very, very quick fire session, but a fresh set of rubber coming out for Matt Griffin in the 55 Ferrari, the other one from the Spirit of Race crew. He's leaving it late, but it could be the optimum moment.
The point on offer in this session could be crucial. It may well for JMW Motorsport. It would bring them absolutely level with TF Sport to head into the final race. The 99 Beechdean crew aren't out of it, but basically they want everybody else to retire and for them to win the race. It's unlikely, but they can still get to 88 points from their current 63 and therefore skip ahead.
Could get to 89 if they get the point.
They could get 89, yes, with the extra point, indeed.
But they are currently 24 points down with 26 to play for, so yeah, you need a meteor strike or something.
But certainly the top four are in with a chance. It's 17 points that separate the top four teams, with 26 on offer this weekend. Aaron Scott is just taking a watching eye, along with Amato Ferrari from AF Corsa, although the Ferrari is officially entered by Spirit of Race for this event. There is the Beechdean AMR Aston just cresting the rise and now negotiating turn right-hander at turn 9.
It's not really turn 9. I don't know why our circuit map has that, because you look at 10, there's nothing for 11. That is effectively turn 12 at the top of the hill.
Okay.
But there's a twist. You'll see when a car goes around the first corner, just on the inside of the first corner, there can be another layout of the circuit which involves a flick to the right and a flick to the left. That's used by the motorbikes by and large. So really it's a 15-turn track. But we'll talk about it as the sharp one at the top of the hill, shall we?
Yeah.
Nail it down like that. And wow, great line from Darren Turner across the top of the hill there. Now he's swept down over that final rise into the final compression, up the start-finish straight to the start-finish line. At the moment his car is down in 4th place. Will it advance at all? Not with that lap, it won't.
It is going to be interesting how those corners are identified, and we will learn a little bit more when there are incidents in the race, I suppose. But Eduardo Freitas will need to, and his team will need to refer to where things have happened on the track. As you say, if it happens after what is labelled as 10 on our map, where on earth is that?
It's the top of the hill hairpin that doesn't exist according to the track map, so I'm sure that will be sorted. But look, down in the pits, still scurrying. This is the 51 Ferrari looking for a fresh set of rubber, and you'd have thought that they have really got to get a move on. That's got to get around and get onto its flying lap. Just over 2 minutes remaining. It's still in the pit lane. Looks like that's the best shot from Matteo Caroli. 1 minute 43.370. They can't get that car onto new rubber and back out again. New rubber is on the 55 Ferrari though, so Matt Griffin sitting low in the car, sweeping around the early stages of the lap, trying to build the heat up in those tyres. But it looks though Cairoli and the Proton crew have had their shot, and they'll just be sitting back in the garage, see if anybody could topple them, but they're topped by nearly 0.8 of a second in a 77 Porsche. Down
the hill towards that tight left-hand hairpin went Matt Griffin. Here he is on the exit of that bend as Matteo Cairoli feels he's done enough at 143.370. Back with the team. We'll wait to see whether there are any celebrations. I don't think quite as early as this. Maybe in another minute's time they may start high-fiving. But Matt Griffin could have a response yet to the Italian in 77.
Yeah, it's been a good season for Cairoli. Porsche really pleased with him on their books, and the young Italian just continues to put down markers. Early point in the lap, looking to see if there's any improvement yet from Matt Griffin. There's a car up ahead, lights are being flashed, you can't see the car ahead. Now you can. Around the outside it's the Yolok Aston Martin, but of course it's not the Yolok one at the moment. It's being driven by Nicky Team, but Nicky keeping out of the way there, so hopefully Matt Griffin wasn't to put out, but he'll have time for another flying lap. He's going down out of turn 14, 15 now, and then a slight rise. There you can just see it kicking up in front of those grandstands built into the hillside, into turn 16. That's where it gets a bit bouncy, into the compression. Up he comes, but it'd be the next lap that's the quick one. This is the out lap, if you will.
Hurling it into that final right-hander, which is tight on the approach, and then it just opens out gently. The climb up over the hill. Griffin, though, goes to provisional pole, a 142.657 with absolute bests through sectors 1 and 3 and a PB through sector 2 as well. That was a great effort.
And what we're seeing now is Will Stevens also just getting onto that flying lap, a few seconds to spare. Now he's going down, but his quick time will be, he's 6th and slowest in the group, but he's got the fresh rubber on that JMW Ferrari. Now the track to play for, just going past that little in and out that's not being used this weekend by the cars. And down to turns 3 and 4, and then you can see the start of the climb up the hill. There's always a climb up the hill here at Portimão. Nicky Tim out of the Aston Martin there. That's the one, of course, from TF Sport, number 90, and he's sitting 3rd fastest in class. So no bonus point for him in that championship battle. Don't forget that car is the one leading the championship by 1 point. But it could be clawed back. It could be Fannin and Smith, with Will Stevens doing their job for them out on the track at the moment. But it's currently Griffin from Cairoli. Cairoli, of course, parked up in the pits, and Griffin going around on a further lap. Will it be as good as his previous one? Hard to know where to look out on the circuit.
Well, 32.4 is very good from Griffin, but he has been quicker through Sector 1. He's gone quicker than anybody else now through Sector 2, though, so has an opportunity, I'd say, to beat the 142.6 he's already put in. Andrea Bertolini is out on track, potentially going to better his time. Likewise, Will Stevens, but Darren Turner, Nicky Thiem and Matteo Cairoli have all given up and parked the cars. So Cairoli going to be no better than second position. Will we have two Ferraris on the front row? On the Griffin's about to cross the line and doesn't improve. 142.9. He was only 0.3 of a second off. So now we look back to Andrea Bertolini, and Bertolini has gone quicker than that car's managed through sectors 1 and 2. Can he finish it off?
Don't think he can, Johnny. His sectors I don't think were good enough unless he's really combined them fantastically well. His middle sector seemed a little bit down. It's Griffin still top, 1 minute 42.6, and Bertolini that does improve, but only to 4th place.
But Will Stevens has snatched second place very, very late on and done 143.2, so it will be Ferraris locking out the front row, Bruce.
Well, they came through almost identical timing there. I was just thinking, how's he down in 4th? And then, of course, that's because the JMW Motorsport Ferrari, there it is, yellow, black and red, up into second place. So the bonus point for pole goes for the crew that are ranked 3rd overall. They're no longer 11 points down on the championship leading Hanley team and Yoluk Aston Martin. Now they're 10. On these little things, a championship could turn. So, first roll of the dice, and the first result goes the way of the JMW. Sorry, it goes the way of the 55 Griffin Ferrari crew with Cameron and Scott in the garage. They'll be very pleased with him.
So, if 55 wins tomorrow, they can now get to 102 points. And they'll be hoping that TF Sport finish, well, 3rd place would also give TF Sport 102 points. Then it would go down to the number of wins, and the Ferrari 55 would have the advantage, because sadly TF Sport kicked off the year so well with the win at Silverstone. But then 2 second places, a 3rd, and a real dramatic affair at Spa-Francorchamps a month ago. They were against all odds really picking up the 10 points that they did, because the car had an ECU fault. It stopped twice, I seem to remember, once with Nicky Thiem at the wheel, once with Ewan Hankey driving it. They had damage as well in that car. But here is a reminder of how the cars will line up for the 6th and final round of the European Le Mans Series in the GTE category. It's the Spirit of Race 55 Ferrari of Aaron Scott, Matt Griffin and Duncan Cameron that take pole position by 0.6 of a second from the JMW Motorsport team. 66 trail the leaders by a point. Starting 3rd will be Matteo Cairoli. The 77 Porsche could yet offer quite a bit in this race. Andrea Bertolini muscling the 51 Ferrari to 4th fastest ahead of the 2 Aston Martins, Nicky Thiem and Darren Turner, for TF Sport and Beach Dean respectively.
Well, you said before the start of the session, the Aston Martin drivers were complaining their cars just don't seem to have the pace. So it could be a long 4 hours for them tomorrow. But then again, the question, Johnny, is that the pace on a flying lap? Or how do they think it is going to be out across a race? We mentioned this is a very, very abrasive track.
Yes. And
one fears if you're not good on your laps, on your tyres on a fly, you're probably not going to be so good on them over a full race distance. We will see. But at the moment, it's very much in the GTE class. Advantage in the hands of the Ferrari crew. So great lap there from Matt Griffin. In the end, 0.64 of a second clear, and his second best lap was 0.3 of a second clear of what anyone else did. So yeah, 2 really good laps right at the end of the qualifying session there for Matt Griffin.
Yes. So
just unplugging now, hopping out, and no doubt he'll be given a pat on the back for that one.
He certainly will, and I'm sure Charlie George down in the pit lane, serving us with interviews for both the European Le Mans Series and the Michelin Le Mans Cup this weekend. We'll grab a word. In fact, there is Charlie just out of shot, just allowing Matt to take the helmet and the hands device off. It is warm work in that car, it would appear, but Matt very, very happy indeed with the 2 laps he managed to put in. Obviously, 1 was good enough. 142.657 gives the Irishman pole position, and here's some reaction now with Charlie George.
Well, Matt, 3rd pole for the 55 Ferrari this season, and an extra point, which could be critical for that championship.
It's the most important pole position of my life, because we needed that point to have a difficult but non-mathematical, realistic chance at the championship. It looks not quite gone our way a couple of times this year, but we've consistently been the fastest car, and honestly, I don't know how I did the lap. If I had to do it again, maybe I couldn't do it. I don't know. It was completely on the limit everywhere. I got everything I could out of the car, and the team had done a fantastic job giving me the car to do it. So yeah, it's a special pole position, because the lap was faster than I thought I could go, so I'm really happy.
Well done, Matt.
Thank you.
A little bit overwhelmed almost, Matt Griffin. You don't often see him in that mode, but I think the plaudits are well deserved.
Entirely so, but just to reiterate, he didn't just do one faster lap than anyone else could do, he did two, so he was right out on the edge, and here comes Duncan Cameron. I just caught beside of him on another view as the P3 cars go out on the track, so he's being congratulated by Griffin and the crew. But yeah, that was a mighty run for him out around the circuit. But yes, 10 minutes to go. We had 6 cars in the GTE class, many more, about 3 times that number in the P3 class, and they're trying to find space on the circuit, Johnny. Only 10 minutes to play with, and getting a clear lap could almost be as important as just getting it right out to the curbs, but importantly not beyond.
Indeed, and as we know, Eduardo Freitas and his team, there is, by the way, some of the congratulations that Matt Griffin is receiving from some of his crew. That's another guy from Spirit of Race there, one of the mechanics. But we'll concentrate now on 17 LMP3s, a combination of Ligier JSP3 and Norma M30 chassis, all powered though by the same 5-litre V8 Nissan engine. And these qualifying sessions, Bruce, I know you've not been around for a lot of them this year, but you'll be thoroughly entertained across this 10 minutes. It's a shame it's not 20 or 30 minutes, to be honest.
No, it's like the gun is loaded, because the times will change so fast.
Exactly.
We'll be looking at the screen, it'd be like a blur as they try. One will go top, the next one will cut in. I love it like this, and it's not complicated. It's the fastest lap will take pole. No additions, no mathematics required. And the great look is 17 entry. That's the Ligier from Ultimate. Looks really good around the circuit in brighter light. Oh, we've got a spin. The Oregon Norma has gone off, unfortunately. It's been thrown off because it has the nastiest colour scheme in the whole pit lane, pink, yellow and green.
Yeah, carried over from, some of their other cars in the Renault Sport Trophy from last year, for instance. And car number 10's been started by Dario Capitanio. And Capitanio in the kitty litter early on. So yellow flag's currently covering that lengthy straight. And in fact, the session's going to be red flagged because it's too tricky to get that car extracted with so much traffic, I suppose.
So remember the time. We'd had 2 minutes 48 seconds. We only got 7 minutes and 12 seconds when it goes back. It was quick fire to start with 10 minutes to play with. It's going to be a rumble and a roar to get out of the pit lane. So wonderful shots out around the circuit. We don't like the red flag particularly because it means play has been stopped, but that's post 23. You can see the VIP tyre in the background, twists and turns and the gradient here, the Algarve International Circuits, and they've called out Dario Capitiano, who quite like to go out and have another go. Single-handedly, sir, you will not be able to shift that Norma out of the gravel. I think it would take about 6 people pushing it out. That's going to be a tow job, and indeed that's the right call to bring the session to a halt before too many people got on absolute flyers. Most of the field were just going out on their outlap, and for Dario, a huge disappointment. New driver in the team joining him this weekend, Tony Forney, at the last minute. Davide Roda was injured and hasn't recovered in time to be given clearance to go and play. But there is the VIP tower in the background. Great viewing from most places on the circuit, but really good from the tower. Well, at least they can smile down in the world of Oregon, but frustration, and Dario just say, please give me a push.
I'm not sure, even if they got the car out, whether he'd be permitted to do the rest of the session, though, because he's the cause of the red flag.
Yeah.
And I think, as per the regulations, he won't be permitted to do any more qualifying. Sadly, the car just on cold tyres, cold Michelin tyres, the car pirouetting even before he knew about it. He couldn't gather it up. That's through turn
5.
Whatever we're calling it. 5. OK, thank you. And onto the long straight that runs into that tight hairpin. So, red flag. Nobody set a time, and as Bruce says, the session becomes 7 minutes and 12 seconds. Yes, I was right. And the marshals now are setting about trying to get this car cleared as quickly as possible. Just a quick mention on Andrea Roda, as you say. He was in the car when it toppled over at Spa-Francorchamps. Was it Roda that you were talking about?
Davide Roda.
Davide Roda.
Yeah.
We'll move on to Andrea Roda for Algarve Pro Racing in a moment or two. Davide Roda, yes, you're right. There's been a replacement there as well. Andreas Roda's sitting out this race, though, related to that rollover that he had at Spa-Francorchamps. So, toe eye to be located, I think, on the nose of these Normas. We need a 4x4 in place, first of all, to get the car recovered. And everybody else, all the 16 other LMP3 cars, have made their way back to the pit lane. As far as the championship is concerned, it's reasonably tight. There is a gap of 19 points between the United Autosports car number 2 and the number 18 M Racing YMR. The Ligier, M Racing have a Ligier and a Norma, the 19 car being the Norma M30. So it's tricky, really, for anyone not being the number 2 car to win the title. It's still possible, but if the 18 crew were to win, they certainly need a point from this session to help them along. They could then get to 92 points, and they're hoping that the number 2 car finishes outside the top 6, basically. And I think it's between those two teams, 17 and the Ultimate crew, as you mentioned. Terrific paint scheme there for Jean-Baptiste and Mathieu Lehay, joined by François Heriot. And the 3 drivers have really surprised throughout the course of the year. They're 3rd in the championship, their best result being a 2nd place at Silverstone, but they're just a bit too far back in the title race.
United Autosports having a fantastic season. Jean Falbe and Sean Rahal leading, as you say, Johnny, by the mere 19 points at the moment. Hugely professional outfit across all sorts of championships, and it's looking very good for them. Looking slightly less good for Dario Cappucciano, but his Oregon Norma has been lifted. Now, we've talked about how it's between the Ligiers and the Normas in the P3 category. The easiest way to tell them is the front angle, because the nose on the Norma is much narrower. It looks like a single-seater nose, whereas on the Ligier it goes the whole way across. I know we're showing you the back of a car at the moment, but when you get a chance to have a look, if it's got almost the full width nose between the wings, that is the Ligier. Pirates in the pit lane, who'd have thought it?
Yeah, that's the flag of Oregon, in fact, and often on the roof of their trailer. As I say, they did a season of Renault Sport Trophy last year with 3 cars, and Dario Capitano was one of their pilots. Andrea Roda, likewise, Davide Roda rather, likewise. And it's good to see that those guys have made the step across to the European Le Mans Series. They have had a difficult season. One of the first actually to take the switch to the Norma M30. We now have 4 Norma chassis in the category, with Duquesne Engineering steadily making progress. They made the switch to 1 Norma, and now both the 7 and the 8 cars are Normas. Now the 10 is moving again, so that is good news. However, I just wonder whether Dario will be receiving some bad news as far as he's concerned in a moment or two, with the instruction that he won't be able to do the rest of the session. I might be wrong. Let's get my head back into the regulations, but normally, if you're the cause of the stoppage...
Team manager, car 10, I'm reporting your driver to the stewards for not obeying the race director's instructions. Team manager, car 10, I'm reporting your driver to the stewards for not obeying the race director's instructions.
That was my concern, and the instructions may well have been, you can't go around the track. We want to start this session again on a short call.
I will have to delay slightly the beginning, the resuming of the session. Kindness of car 10 for leaving gravel on track. I'll have to delay the resuming of the session after the kindness of car 10 for leaving gravel on track.
Kindness is the word of the day. Eduardo Freitas clearly deeply unimpressed that Dario Cappucciano, having had his car lifted out of the gravel, so it was safe to go and play, then continuing around the circuit against instructions and leaving a trail of gravel. And the crew are waiting for him, engine off number 10. I also see in the background people getting some tyres ready for him. I'm not sure. There's the gravel he's left around the circuit, so you don't want to be the first one out. Well, we know Portugal fantastic at football, but that's going to take quite a while to clear all those off the circuit. A broom might be a slightly better thing, even though some pretty good right foot action going on out there. But that shot was just emphasising the gradient change. You could see some of the marshals and not the others. It really rises there, and that is from the exit of turn. Well, in fact, it could be anywhere around the course of the circuit, because he's come the whole way back round. And so waiting for resumption of the practice, the qualifying session for the P3 runners. 16 runners left to play, 7 minutes and 12. That's going to go in the blink of an eye. And here comes that number 10 coming in slowly. You can see the narrow nose, marking it out as an easy aid, sort of visual aid. That is the Norma with that body shape. And they'll be going very well in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, but overall it's the Ligiers that seem to be doing the winning when it comes to the European Le Mans Series in the P3 class. Yeah,
I think they're catching them up steadily, and it is about trying to equalise, I suppose, the chassis where possible. But the 10 Oregon entry makes its way back. The driver given the instruction to shut the car off. They may well, they're certainly going to change tyres because they'll be full of gravel. What I was wondering is...
Information to the pit lane, the resuming of the session will be on a very short call. Resuming of the session will be on a very short call.
I wondered whether the car may go up on the dolly jacks, be spun around and then sent into the garage for some work to make sure there's not any gravel in any of the suspension. or the air intakes, but Oregon seem happy to throw that car back out again. I just wonder whether any time set by Dario Capitani will actually count to anything.
Well,
we'll wait and see.
Don't forget the team manager had been called to go and see the clerk of the course and the race stewards. But clearly hasn't quite managed to get there yet, so the team is just going through scramble mode and sending him out.
Starting the session in 4 seconds.
Okay, yep. Start is upon a site.
Exit green. Here.
Simon Gachet going to lead the queue out. That's Panis Barthez competition, number 16.
Yeah, so let's give you the drivers, because we didn't even get that far in the first 3 minutes of the session before it was red flagged. So, as Bruce mentioned, Simon Gachet in the number 16 car. We have Mathieu Lehay driving the 17 Ultimate car, Alexandre Cugnot in the 18, and Jan Erlechet in the 19 car. It's Alex Capadia driving car 15 for RLR Motorsport. Kuba Smichowski in the number 13. Ricky Capo drives the number 10 car. Giorgio Mondini for Euro International, that's car 11. And then Dario Capitani, as we've mentioned on several occasions, for Oregon in number 10. Mikkel Jensen doing the qualifying duties at AT Racing. It's Lucas Legere in car number 8. That's the Duquesne Engineering car that he shares with Nicolas Mellin and Vincent Beltoise. The other Duquesne car will have Antonin Borger, although that car's not actually come out from the pit lane yet. Ross Kaiser drives the 360, number 6 entry. We have the new driver at the wheel of the number 5 car, which is the By-Speed Factory machine, SVK rather, and that's Russian driver Timur Boguslavsky.
Well done, sir.
I think. Iraj Alexander in the number 4 car from Cool Racing. Wayne Boyd and Sean Rahal driving the 3 and the 2 from United Autosports. And we start the session where we, in fact, began that rundown of drivers with Simon Gachet. He's the first out, and you can really see the bumps there through the final corner, or the approach rather, to turn 15.
And that's why it was imperative as he approaches the line for you to get through that list of start drivers, because the order's going to start getting scrambled when they come round at the end of the next lap, which is their flying lap. Riding on board at the moment, as I said, you see a lot of sky. That is going up towards turn 14 at the top of the hill, a tight left-handed. Now they run. Well, that one's running very slowly at the moment. Now starting to pick it up. The end of the lap, one of the M Racing cars. That's their Ligier. That's the one with the wider nose, and that's Alexandre Cugnot. This is the car that is in the outside chance of the P3 title battle. So everything's got to go right for them. Looks distracting with that cable coming down. Don't worry, it's out of the driver's line of sight. It's behind them. That's his communication cord, if you will, and over the start-finish line. As you can see, the start-finish straight seems fairly smooth. Now it starts to drop. Goes into a compression, then it goes down and then flicks up into turn 1. We don't turn right and left into the chicane. We go on around the outside. Now the car that's challenging for title honours, leading the title honours, Falb and Rahal. That number 2 United Autosports Ligier looking very good, and it's red, white and blue out to the curves, not beyond. Don't forget that message at the start of the GTE runners session will have been really relayed to these drivers as well. Go over the curves, exceed the track limits, and it's not a small smack, it's a big smack. Your lap is just obliterated. It's out of there.
2 pole positions this season for AT Racing, the number 9 car, so they're on a hat-trick. We've also seen poles for the number 3 United Autosports, the number 7 Duquesne Engineering entry, and the 360 Racing crew. Ross Kaiser getting pole at Paul Ricard. Interestingly, though, the championship leaders on 85 points yet to be in pole position, so the number 2 car might get that elusive pole at the end of this, but there are 16 other crews out there trying to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right, let's see what the first flying lap is. Just saw the ever modest Mark Patterson. Who's that? When the camera's focused on him in the United Autosport pits, he's looking to see how the 2 and 3 cars can go, particularly the 3. That's the car he shares with Wayne Boyd, who's driving in Christian England. So looking for that first flying lap. Jan Erlechet has 1 minute 41.046. He's top in the number 19 Norma from M Racing YMR. Fastest, red flag again. Why the red flag? Looking for a single car. Okay, we've already had one car having its times taken away for exceeding track limits. That's car number 13, which is Inter-Europol competition. Schmikowski, Polish racer. Oh, dearie me. Is that one of the Duquesne cars?
It is. Now, is that the number 7 or the 8 car from Duquesne Engineering? Should be able to tell from that little bit of green tape. It's the
number
7. It's the 7 car that has come to a halt.
That's Antonin Borger at the wheel of that.
Yeah. And sadly, the Swiss driver, 30 years old, he's the silver-graded driver, along with David Drew, and then we have the bronze from Nicolas Schatz in the trio. trying to work out where that is. It's in the gravel.
He's facing backwards because we can see the cars going off in the background. Just trying to work out which bit of slope he's near.
Well, this is a real trying session. You will have a strategy heading into such a short, sharp burst of quali.
Yes,
for
and
10 minutes.
Your strategy isn't written to say restart at 7 minutes and 12 to go, then another one at 3 minutes and 31. That really, we saw in the GTE runners that they came in and put a fresh set of rubber on with about 4 minutes to go, released with about 3 minutes to go. That gave them time. Looks like it's right towards the end of the lap. We're looking at the red flag being waved at post 23. Our little track map isn't helping us with car in gravel bed at turn 5. Okay, it's the same gravel bed as we saw Capitiano go in then.
Oh, no, but it's the track map's turn 5.
Turn 5. So it's the top of the hill past the VIP tower.
Yes, so it's in the second sector. As you say, VIP tower's on the inside of that sharp left-hand hairpin. Then there's a kink, and I just wonder whether Antonin Borg has had a slight accident, a slight whoopsie through that left-hand kink there, and the car's swapped ends on him. Hopefully we may get another chance to see that in a second or two. But Borger sitting there awaiting recovery. And the problem is we have 3 cars that have set decent times. Simon Gachet's 141.1 puts him provisional pole in the class. Alex Capadia done a decent job to get the 15 car second fastest, and Ross Kaiser's up there for 360, third fastest. Then quite a gap back to Iraj Alexander, who did a 43.8. But how many cars haven't set times?
No. What's happened, of course, their lap, when the red flag came out, was taken away.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We had Jan Erlacher at the top. He's now down at the bottom of the list with no time to his name.
Right.
So it's really, really going to be complicated. Effective, that could almost all be thrown in the bin, apart from those top 3, which you mentioned, 16, 15 and 6. They've got a time that counts. The rest have to go out in this final 3 minutes, 31 seconds and put in a proper flying lap. No pressure, guys.
That's a good point. Although Jan Erlacher's time, as you say, his name was displayed at the top. Did he have that time taken away from him, perhaps?
Well, he must have done, because he's listed with that. And now it's been taken away completely. It just flashed past our eyes. He's listed as having completed his 4th lap. That's, in fact, him coming into the pits there.
Yeah.
Yes, it was taken away by the red flag, is the long and the short of it. So, while we wait for that number 7 Norma to be lifted away, one of 2 entered by Duquesne Engineering up and down the pit lane, it's all focus on will they be in the right state of, not just of mind, but preparedness when the session goes green. We started with 10 minutes to play with. That is quick far enough. We broke it down to just 7 minutes to play in. Now we're down to 3.5 minutes to play in. The pressure is really, really ramping it up. There's United Autosports down at pit exit, waiting to go and play. Sean Rahal, that's Wayne Boyd. That's the car. We saw Mark Patterson in the pit lane earlier, smile on his face, but the qualifying honours go to Wayne Boyd in that number 3 entry. So a huge amount of pressure on all the crews now. And rescue crews doing their best to get this car lifted. They're still trying to hook it up. Now it looks so it's ready to go up onto the flat bed and away. Come what may, it has to be taken out of that gravel trap, sitting in a dangerous position there.
Yeah, and this circuit actually broke ground in 2007, first event in 2008, so you can't really call it an old school track, although there's not a great deal of runoff, which is asphalt and therefore easy to get away from. There are quite a number of gravel traps, and if we end up with cars stuck in them with no way out and no easy way to recover them on the local yellows, we may well have a number of red flags in qualifying, and therefore perhaps the version of that in the race is a full course yellow. Unlikely, I think, to have safety cars in tomorrow's race unless there's damage to barriers and tyre walls and things, and often we will get a safety car just to bunch the field up, make it safe for the marshals to work in. But normally things can be dealt with FCYs. So this is very, very frustrating. 3.5 minutes plus a second to go, and that will give these drivers and cars an out lap and then probably one quick lap, maybe 2. But we're going to get a slightly topsy-turvy grid, I think, with GT cars in the middle of LMP3s potentially, which will make tomorrow's start interesting as well.
Absolutely could. Now, a lot of it, is, as much as anything, is about positioning where they are in this queue to leave the pit lane. Looks like the number 18 car. Don't forget, that's the one with the outside chance of the championship, the M Racing Weimar Ligier, in the hands of Alexandra Cuneo. That looks like it's going to be about the first one out of the pit. So it's about getting the heat back into their tyres on this outlap and then totally nailing it. But as we heard from Matt Griffin, he took pole in the GTE class. He hung it right out there. You know, in fact, he did 2 really good laps.
Session will be resumed resumed on a very short call. Session will be resumed on a very short call.
Well, the drivers and teams know that. They'll be given the green ASAP. There's the number 2, Ligier from United Autosports. Sean Rahal at the wheel of that. He's halfway down the queue. Not necessarily the place to be. Should easily have enough time to get onto that flying lap. But he won't want some slower runners in front of him. So he's going to have to really learn, use his experience and work out how to make space to go for his run. So certainly...
On standby to go green at pit exit. On standby to go green at pit exit.
Antonin Borger and Duquesne Engineering were listening when the instructions were doled out, and their car is going to be brought back to the paddock on a flatbed. So we're not going to get gravel on the track, and we can resume very quickly. The clock starts to tick down then. How quickly can you do this outlap and then do a fast one?
Well, interesting, the car that came out in second place, Mikkel Jensen, already got several poles this year in P3. He wants to get to the front of the train. He's in second place in the queue coming out. He was trying to overtake into the first corner, so no hanging around for him in the AT Racing entry.
Yeah, no time to lose at all. And as you say, it's crucial in terms of where you are in the queue. You don't want traffic on what is supposed to be a potential pole position lap. And Jan Erlechet trying to skip by, I think, a couple of those cars as well. No, that's the 11, rather, of Giorgio Mondini, Euro International driver. He's one of 2 in the 11 car this weekend, Marco Iacoboni.
Well, there was nearly contact there with Cuneo. The advantage has gone the way of Mikkel Jensen. He's got the AT Racing car to the lead of that group, but it was nearly collision down into the left-hand hairpin on their outlap. These drivers are so desperate to make space. Totally different lines around the top of the hill. Giorgio Mondini, I would suggest, is maybe going a little bit overexcited on this lap. He's got space behind him. You might as well back off a little bit. You can use that space to make your advance. But right now he's pushing Cuneo. Cuneo's being as sensible as he can be, but he's running the risk of being having contact with the car behind as it tries to get past. There's your choice. Do you let it by and go, fine, I've got my space? No, what he's doing, he's just now going to start ramping it up. The right-hander that leads into his big swoop at the end of the lap. Plenty of space for Mikkel Jensen at the front of the grouping. Now Cuneo's got space, and now Mondini's got the message. He's hung back.
Yeah, that was always the option, wasn't it, for the Italian to try and just ease back a little bit. Mondini, who's had some stellar opening stints in the races this year in the European Le Mans Series, 37 years old, the silver, and Jacoboni being the bronze, both from Italy. He's had various different co-drivers as Giorgio Mondini, although Mondini remaining the constant through all 6 races. We'll see what he can do, but as Bruce mentions, it's Mikkel Jensen for AT Racing at the head of this train of cars released from the pit lane for the 3rd time in this session, and Mikkel Jensen already with 2 pole positions under his belt for this year.
One thing I just want to throw in the mix, number 6 is running very much at the back of the pad, but it will be the last car to complete the session. That's only going into the penultimate sequence of corners now, as our leaders on their flying lap have gone past the VIP tower up over the hill, but he's got so much space to play with. Number 6 driven by Ross Kaiser, the 360 Racing entry, but all eyes at the moment will be on Cuneo in number 18. He's lying second in the championship. The extra point will give him just a scintilla more chance in this P3 element of the European Le Mans Series if he can take pole position, but the competition is going to be very, very tight indeed. We only had 3 times on the board. The one to beat, 1 minute 41.148 seconds. Remember that. That's the time at the moment. One of the 3 crews got a qualifying lap in ahead of the second stoppage.
The downside for Ross Kaiser is he's not going to be able to squeeze an extra lap out of this, whereas these crews just heading into the penultimate corner and then the long swoop through the final corner will get an extra lap with still...
Will they? 20 seconds ago. The first 3 might. I'm not too sure behind that. 17 might be the first one to miss out. We'll keep an eye out for that, but it's number 9 leading round. There's number 3, one of the 2 United Autosports cars. That's in the thick of the grouping. That might be the first one to miss out, actually.
Jensen's going to get an extra lap, and it's going to be close for Cuneo, but I think he's just about managed to sneak onto an extra one as well. Jensen goes to provisional pole, though, with a 140.942. Sean Rahal now to the top of the times, and he gets the checkered flag. So Sean Rahal, for the time being, hangs on to very much a provisional pole position.
You can see how tense it is down there. John Falber, the crew, just not sure, isn't he? Will he stay top? But he's got the extra point at the moment. Wayne Boyd now goes top in the number 3, so the teammates go ahead, and Rahal suddenly tumbles down that order. We'll give you the final positions in a moment, but it's number 3 is the other car from United Autosports, but it's 18 we have to look at, and Mikkel Jensen as well in number 9. They're the 2 that got a second flying lap out of this, because here they are, and at 18 still pressing on.
And Sean Rahal's had that 140.7 taken away. That's got to be track limit, so he tumbles down to 15th in the class, or 14th in the class, in fact, for the number 2 car.
Effectively has no flying lap to his name. That's when you've only got one to play with. Really, really cruel, but it's the same for everyone.
So Wayne Boyd, for the time being, that time looks good. Mikkel Jensen squeezing an extra lap, and this could be crucial in the number 9 car. Alexandre Cugno, there he is in the 18. This lap will count as well for M Racing.
They're 2nd and 5th in the table at the moment, but they've got this bonus lap, if you will. No wonder they were jockeying for position when they got out of the pit exit. It was 3 minutes and 31 they had to play with. They would have done the sums, or someone kind would have done them for them out on the pit wall to let them know what they had to do to get 2 flyers, not just one. And don't forget, press too hard, go over the curves. As the number 2 crew found out, don't forget the championship leaders. They have had their qualifying lap taken away from them. Mikkel Jensen, does he improve? 1 minute 40.660. He is now top. Will he be toppled by Cugno? I don't think so. Cugno goes up from 5th to 4th, and Jensen from 2nd to 1st. So the point for pole, the bonus point, doesn't go to either of the championship challengers.
No, it will take the number 9 crew, AT Racing, onto 48 points, and therefore take them into a clear 5th position ahead of the 11 crew, because both 11 and 9 started this round on the same points. But that's a 3rd pole position now for Danish driver Mikkel Jensen. So a tremendous season as far as single lap pace is concerned, supporting Alexander Talkanitsa Jr. and Senior.
So Sean Rahal comes in, and he has 3 crews listed as slower than him, because these were all crews that did not get a flying lap. He set a very good flying lap. It was good enough for what at the time was pole position, but clearly exceeding track limits has cost him dearly.
And it's going to be a tricky start for Sean Rahal and John Fowle, whoever is putting the number 2 car to take the start of the race. He's going to start behind all of the GTE cars. From what is at the moment 20th position, that will turn into something like 32nd position for the number 2 crew. Remember, they need to, well, finish in the top 6 pretty much to secure the championship. They do have this healthy 19-point lead, and there is confirmation then that AT Racing take a 3rd pole position of the season with a 140.660. Every credit to Mikkel Jensen. United Autosports, their number 3 car, driven by Wayne Boyd, 2nd fastest from Panis Bartes Competition, and Simon Gachet setting the time 4/10 of a second off the pole. M Racing were 4th fastest, Alexandre Cugno leaving that late. Giorgio Mondini, despite an erratic outlap, the 11 car 5th fastest. From Ross Kaiser for 360 Racing, Jan Erlechet for the 19M Racing crew. That's the best placed Norma, therefore. Alex Capadia, who admitted to me yesterday they are struggling a little bit with the setup of that car. I think possibly damper related. They will have probably solved some of those problems overnight, actually, and generally it was a better session for everyone this morning. Lucas Legeret, 9th fastest, and Ricky Capo, 10th quickest in the number 12 Ligier. That's a Euro International crew. Well, 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 so many stories from that session. We promised you pretty much that was going to be the case. I didn't expect it to be a 3-part affair, though, with 2 red flags due to cars being off in gravel traps. And now, clearly, there is no time to lose ahead of a 3rd and final qualifying session. Here are the big guns, then, for the LMP2s. We'll try and get you some reaction on the LMP3 qualifying, though, probably with Mikkel Jensen, but we'll turn our attention to the big prototypes for the time being.
Well, let's hope when the P2 runners go out, they've ticked the box for simple, not complicated. Certainly the P3 runners with the 2 restarts in that session made life very, very difficult for. We weren't complaining because it made it really, really exciting for us. But a great run there from Mikkel Jensen to take pole in P3. So fist up there for him, and for Talkanitsa Senior and Junior, they'll be very pleased with their charges. Yet again, 3 from 6, not a bad batting average for the Dane in setting pole position. Of course, we started the season, it really seems a very long time ago.
Right, let's get a word then with Mikkel Jensen, the man of the moment. It's the 3rd pole of the year, and let's see what he thinks about it. Joining now Charlie George in the garage.
Well, Mikkel, congratulations. There's nothing like a bit of pressure in qualifying, is there?
Yeah, it's not easy to be in the middle of the pit lane with 2 red flags, so I think things were against us. And I was 2nd before going out in the last run, and managed to overtake the other car to have a complete clean run. So actually my quali lap was not the most difficult, but to get past the other guy to have a free line. So we had a bit of a fight, but I made it, and I'm really happy. The team did a great job, and we struggled in the last practice, so it's great now to show that we're able to do it.
Thank you, well done.
Yeah, cool, calm, collected, as you would expect from Mikkel Jensen, but he's got the job done again, and we'll see how long that car can stay out in front. I wouldn't be surprised to see Mikkel put in the car for the opening stint, but he'll be held back for the final stint as well, so it's a tricky big one to judge that. AT Racing is the team, although mainly it's AF Corsa Mechanics looking after the car and the strategy. So, LMP2's already had a minute of this session. You've missed nothing, though, because this is the cars being released from the pit lane. 12 LMP2's, and the championship currently being led by G-Drive Racing, the orange and black car. Very easy to spot, the entry from Russia, and they have an 18-point lead over the number 32 United Autosports car. It'll probably be local boy Philippe Albuquerque from Coimbra, about just less than 500 kilometres away from Portimão, but nevertheless he always gets tremendous support here, does Philippe, and driving the number 32 car. The 21's not yet on the move. I don't think there's anything to be concerned about. We'll tell you who's in that in just a second. Rio Hirakawa at the wheel of the number 22 car, then gunning for the championship. Nathaniel Berton driving the 23. We have Andrea Pizzitola at the wheel of the 25 car, also at their home race, Algarve Pro Racing. Mate Vosizakian driving the 27 car. Paul-Luc Chatin making a return to EDEC Sport at Spa, and he's been retained for this race. Jan Lammers driving the 29, the jumbo car. It's the Racing Team Nederland, though, officially. Enzo Guibert at the wheel of the 39 Graf machine. Richard Bradley driving the other car. Andrea Bellicchi for 47 for Chetelaar Vidalba Corsa. And Anders Fjordbach at the wheel of the high-class Racing Dallara.
Just to clear one thing up there, Johnny, Rio Hirakawa is in the car that's leading the championship, but he missed a couple of rounds, so it's Roussel and Rojas, his teammates, who could take the title, but he's trying to do his bit to support them. And the Japanese racer piling it up over the crest, down into the left-hand hairpin, the VIP tower, the sort of trademark, the standard for the circuit. You'll see it just out of shot. He's going past it now, the big round tower. Track flattens a bit briefly, just downhill into this right-hander, then it kicks out. Oh, we've had a faller, and is that the Algarve Pro car? Yes, it is, off into the gravel, and you can see how big the gravel traps are here. That is at the far side. It's not sitting quite as low as the P3 runners were. Where did it go wrong?
Red flag again.
No, there's the bumps. It's at the final corner of the lap. You can't look at the windscreen wipers sucked off the windscreen there. Goes right to the back. You can see the car became unsettled, and the tail almost came off the ground over the bumps on the inside.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few of the Dallaras in the field, very unsettled through corners, like the kink climbing up the hill towards turn 9 on our track map. It's in reality something like turn 12, though, and through the final corner there, that Ligier did not look too happy at all heading through the final corner. Had a little bit of a word with Stuart, the team manager, this morning at Algarve Pro Racing. Tells me there are 5 regulars in the team based here in Portugal, so they're thoroughly enjoying being at their home race. Sadly, though, I mean, that Dunlop tyre chattering away on the rear left corner, and as you say, the windscreen wiper sucked off the screen as well. But once you're into that lurid slide, it's so difficult to rescue the car because you're on the ragged edge heading through that long right-hander that ends the lap. He couldn't hang on to it. And Andrea Roeder, I was suggesting this a little earlier on the broadcast, in the car when it rolled at Spa-Francorchamps and actually ended up on its roof. It was quite a violent roll, actually, but it didn't go over many times, just toppled over onto its roof. But as a result, Andrea Roeder's feet sort of wobbled around in the footwell quite a bit, and he's done damage to his left foot. Initially, the inspection by the doctor at the hospital suggested the foot was fine and he could race this weekend, but on Wednesday they discovered a very small hairline crack in the left foot, and Andrea was reporting quite a bit of pain as well, said he couldn't comfortably brake, and has effectively said, it's better if you do the race without me because I feel like I'm going to just holding you guys up. So that team has reverted to a 2-driver lineup, the 25. So no Andrea Roeder, although he may be here supporting the team. It'll just be Matt McMurray and Andrea Pizzitola, and it is Pizzitola doing the qualifying. Sadly, though, looks like that might be end of play for the 25. Look at it rocking around there in slow-mo, and a little bit of opposite lock, then the pendulum swings the other way, and you just can't catch it. There's a bit of runoff there, the asphalt, but and that tries to address the speed. Gravel Trop does a much better job, and actually does a really good job slowing the car before it hits the tyres.
And one of the things you don't really see clearly when you look at a televised image is gradient. It's dipping at that point. And so it wasn't just a smooth ride off into the gravel, but turning left when the car should be going right isn't the best way to be at that final corner. So, red flag, 7 minutes and 9 seconds remaining on the clock. We can already see the cars lining up at pit exit. 28 will lead them out. That's the EDEX Sports Ligier at the wheel, Paul Chatin. But number 40 only very slowly coming back in towards the pit lane. That's Richard Bradley at the wheel of one of the two Graf Racing Orecas. So the crew's trying to decide when to put the fresh rubber on. Will there be another stoppage? Certainly if you look at what's happened so far in qualifying, it's been a little bit tricky here, but such a fantastic circuit. Tempted to go out over the curves to eke a bit of an advantage. Do not do it. The message has come through very, very clearly from clerk of the course, Eduardo Freitas, saying, do that and your lap will be taken away from you. And with such a short session, you really, really can't afford it.
No mixed message there from Eduardo.
It's almost like a damper or something has broken. I know he hit the curb on the inside.
Rear left tyre possibly is down. It did look a bit squidgy, but I thought that was just the weight of the car as it was rocking around. It looks like the tyre's still inflated in the gravel bed.
Yes, you can't always tell when in a gravel bed, but it was peculiar. But as we said, the bumps that I saw out at turn 16 this morning were further round the corner, and it already started almost porpoising there, the front and back going up and down. So hopefully for all the others, they will not be having a similar problem. But it's a very quick, very physical corner there, that final corner. And the loading on the car is huge.
Yeah, positive camber, so it's in your favour, sucking you into the apex. But if the car has a little bit of a moment, maybe you catch the curb at the wrong angle, or a bit too much corrective steering, which starts the pendulum. And early on in the session, again, the tyres are still getting up to temperature. It's when to push in this 10-minute session.
But what you need at the moment, you need experience in the car. Looking at the number 21, could you have more experience? Dragon Speed have got Nicolas Lapierre on board. This is where he earns his money. It's about absolutely delivering when the pressure's on. The pressure most certainly is on. 7 minutes and 9 seconds to go out and qualifying. Track won't be quite as crowded as it was in the P3 class because we had more runners in that, but still they're going to have to fight for position, and we saw what a great job Mikkel Jensen did to get to the front of that queue. He was second in the queue, but front. Team had done the math. They said very few of you are going to get 2 flying laps, and he just wanted to be the one that could dictate where exactly he placed his car.
Brief glimpse inside the number 40 car. Richard Bradley doing qualifying. He shares that with Gustavo Yackerman from Colombia and 21-year-old Aussie James Allen. There's been a driver change in the sister car at Graf because there's no Eric Trouillet this weekend, the major sponsor and backer of Graf Racing, replaced instead by Ricardo Sanchez, the Mexican, joining Paul Petit, or Paul Small as we like to call him, Enzo Guibert. So that's the trio rather in the other car. Eric Trouillet is here this weekend and actually racing in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, also for Graf in car 39. So looking forward to seeing him later on if he qualifies the car. We'll wait and see. There's Nicolas Menassion on the right of shots and Uwe Schoenack on the left from Orica.
Of course, Dragon Speed running the Oricas, and Orica's very well placed in this championship in the P2 class, because the 22 entry is also an Orica. That's Rojas Hirakawa, who is in the car at the moment, and Leo Roussel. They have the championship lead, and that car being unhooked and hopefully moved out of the way. But very unusual place to go off there early into the final corner, but clearly something untoward. We've heard it's a left rear puncture. Let's have a look as the car's back on the deck. No, we can't.
Zigzags, yes, car 25, excellent. Now a few brake tests and let's leave the stones in the gravel, that's where they belong.
Yes, good comment there from Eduardo Freitas, and Andrea Pizzitola has got the memo about...
My personal thanks to Mr. Pizzitola for having done what we just requested. Session will resume on a short call. As soon as the marshals are safe and the money is out of the way, we will go green.
Still not very happy about Dario Capitano.
No, I think that could run and run. But as you saw also, Andrea Pizzitola took the shortest route across the circuit. He limited his time on the racing line. He went from left of circuit straight across the right into pit entry, having done his utmost to shake the gravel out of the car, because certainly of all the corners on the circuit, you do not want gravel under the wheels of your car. Is when the loading's on the full as you go into that compression out of turn 16. So 7 minutes and 9 seconds is all we will have to play with when the cars go out onto the circuit. Last batches of fresh rubber, hot rubber to an extent, or as warm as they can make it by leaving it out in the sun, coming out to the cars. The target time to beat is still, of course, set by the P3 runners, but they should beat that easily. 1 minute 40.660 seconds for the best time. That's set by Mikkel Jensen's We Go Green, but that's 6 seconds off the pace set in free practice 2 this morning by that number 22 car that leads the championship.
So cars back out onto circuit, less of a race than we had in LMP3, but that was with 3 minutes on the clock, so slightly more measured, and the plunge downhill to then climb up the other side into one properly, and don't turn right through the chicane, keep left through turns 2, and then the really tight right-hander at turn 3. We will still have, is that Alcoff Pro rejoining the session? Yes, it is. I think we've got all 12 cars, potentially then with 2 more to be released from the pit lane now.
Yeah, so the Dragon Speed number 21, that Oracle will be the last on the circuit, but the championship leader, number 22, down to the infield hairpin, as we're calling it. It's the left-hander past that big blue painted apron. Drivers very seldom get on there unless they've had something untowards. Then up one of the many climbs, and at this point on the circuit, effectively turn 6, I think they flatten out, turn 7 really. Turn 8 and 9, and out of 9, suddenly you start climbing. Here we go again. That's pretty steep. Then you drop into this compression. Let's see if we go with him down into this drop. And then here, turn 10, I think, such a tricky corner. Very, very fast indeed. That's not flat out. This is the outlap. And watching the behaviour of the cars around there this morning when I walked around the circuit was the Dalaras really struggled to get the noses turned in to turn 10.
Yeah, and the Dallara car set, it would appear, the chassis anyway from the workshop in Italy, set for some improvements next year under the ACO rules and regulations. So it's a great looking car, but I think early on in the year there were difficulties with getting the car set up, particularly at Le Mans. In the background there, the Racing Team Nederland car of Frits van Aert and Jan Lammers. And great to have Jan still part of Top Line Motorsport in 2017. Coming into this final race, I think he's thoroughly enjoyed his year with Frits van Aert, the man, the owner of Jumbo Supermarkets in the Netherlands, and the car carries that sponsorship. Here's the 28 EDEX Sport car. They're into their sailing, this crew, as well as racing cars, yachting, I think.
Well, in fact, it was that round-the-world race that their yacht won by a very narrow margin. But, and of course, long-distance yacht racing, that is where it's at if you're French. They love their yachting, but if it could possibly be something minor like sailing around the world one-handed, they're up there for it.
There's an indication of just one of the swoops downhill. And the steepest of those, 12%, just coming up to that bit now, I think. The plunge downhill and very sideways indeed, the 28 car, struggling to hang on to at the rear end there was the driver, who is at the wheel of car 28. It's Paul-Luc Chatin.
Yeah, I was going to say, track limits, that was about as close as you can get, and that's one of the scariest parts, where the track really, really drops away from you. But that just shows how hard Paul-Luc is pushing on down through turn 15 out. I nearly said over the curbs, but I didn't mean it. Very close to the curbs in a completely legitimate fashion, and now through turn 16 goes the French charger out over the curbs again. Nicely done, kept the 2 right-hand wheels within the white line that marcate the edge of the circuit. Still that time to be beaten, and we've now got 2 very sensible times, and it's Paul-Luc Chatin in second place, but leading the way is Enzo Guibert, and then Salit Philippe Albuquerque. He's believed the promotions everywhere you look around Portimão. His face shines out. Very great promotion for the European Le Mans Series here, and he's doing the job for the home nation, but he's now back down to third because Ria Hurikara from number 22, the championship leading car, on provisional pole, but we still have 3 and a bit minutes remaining. Plenty of time for a second flying lap from all of these chargers.
Yeah, the gap is a quarter of a second. Hirakawa back to Enzo Guibert, who's proved a revelation again in LMP2 this year, particularly when it comes to qualifying. Notice that 2 cars will have this lap deleted. Richard Bradley's number 40 car, he did a 1:43.9, but that was deleted after track limits at turn 1. But what else can you do when you've gone off the track at 1? You just have to sit that lap out. The 49 car also pinged for the same reason, and more. 28 and 27 now, these laps won't count.
Well, 28 we saw going off very nearly over the curbs. I was just about to say, when you were talking about Enzo Guibert, how about his teammate Richard Bradley? Let's look for his time. Then you said he's had it taken away from him. So we'll have to have a look at who keeps their times. Car 21 being pushed very, very hard around the circuit by Nicolas Lapierre, still waiting for a time to get on the board for him. 2 minutes and 20 seconds remaining. Out to the edge and not beyond. That is the message. Lapierre at the moment looks so... This lap is something he's building towards the following lap, but he has clear track ahead of him. Maybe he's just been cautious early in the lap, fully aware of this warning about exceeding track limits costing you your entire lap time.
On board with Ryo Hirakawa, the Japanese, sitting 2 rounds out this year when he was on Super GT duty, so he's not on the same number of points as Leo Roussel and Memo Rojas. Nathaniel Berton now in provisional pole position, but what can Hirakawa do? He's just shy of the Frenchman's time.
Just shy, he's 2/3 of a second shy. That's what a great lap it was from the number 23, Ligier, in the hands of Nat Berton, who is putting pink times on the board. Pink time means fastest of anybody in a particular sector. What will we get from Nicolas Lapierre going through turn 12 into the compression, up the other side, to the point where the cars, if you look from a certain angle, it looks like the cars are running across the sky as they go across the ridge at this point when seen from the other side. As you look at 21 being hustled and muscled around the circuit here by Nicolas Lapierre. He's sort of late in the train of cars. We saw him at the back of the queue because he had the fresh rubber put on. The Dragon Speed Orica down through that final swoop, but again, everywhere you look, Johnny, gradient change.
Yeah, and the car rocking and rolling through that final corner. What does Lapierre do? Goes second. 1:34.090. That's, I was going to say slice the gap. Not really, because it's still half a second to Nat Berton in the number 23 Panes Barthez Competition car, and Nat's actually pitted. So he's not going to get out again. 44 seconds remain on the clock. He thinks that's enough.
Yeah, but the whole point was a lot of people could put in more time. So when they went out to play, it was around 7 minutes they had on the clock. It gives them more options than the P3 runners had when they went out off their second red flag, because they only had 3 minutes 30 seconds to play with. So at the moment it's Nat Berton top of the charts, Nicolas Lapierre, and then Ryo Hirakawa. It's Ligier, Orica, and then Orica in 4th place, Enzo Guibert. Then Philippe Albuquerque, what can he do on home ground? At the moment he's nearly a second down in 5th place overall. Lapierre continues to push on. He's in second, and he's just set the fastest first sector of anyone. Pink on the screen for Nicolas Lapierre. Up over the top, down into the dip. You could say that at any point on the circuit, quite frankly, but he's keeping it tidy. That's turn 12. Oh, hello. Was that still anywhere near the track? It was right out at the limit. That's the corner that most people have been pushing wide. On turn 4 as well, people have been going a little wide. The checkered flag is out, but this lap can be completed by Lapierre.
And the first to see the checkered flag, Richard Bradley in the number 40 car. He's going to get no better than 9th place. Andrea Bellicchi across the line in 7th. I just wonder whether that route through that right-hander where he went out onto the curb didn't look the fastest, let alone track limits. So let's see what Nicolas Lapierre can do. He was quicker than he managed through sector 1, and he misses out on pole position by half a second with Nat Berton sitting in the pit lane. And the celebrations have begun down at Panes Barthez Competition, because Fabien Barthez's team, he's also a driver in that crew, along with Tim Bourret and Nathaniel Berton. They think they've got it, although there are still cars that we're waiting to see across the line. Nobody else, though, further down the order, looks like they're likely to improve, Bruce.
No, they don't, unless it's one who's had all their times taken away, because I can't see any great improvements on the time charts. It's going to be leaving Nat Berton now. There he is, getting the applause from the crew down in the pit lane. So it looked like a risky strategy in this curtailed session, or stop-start session, to pull in with potentially one more flying lap to go for, but pole by 0.515 of a second. That is emphatic at this level.
Yes, it is, certainly. The first pole of the year for Panes Barthez Competition as well. Certainly in LMP2, and I don't think the team have been at the top of the order in P3 either. There is Nat Berton, though, with a big smile on his face. And no, Panes Barthez Competition not getting pole in P3 either, so that's the first one of the year. They certainly were on pole position last year for a round with their P2 car. There's the G-Drive machine. It's going to start 3rd, leading the title, or leading the championship race, I should say, by 18 points. And its nearest championship rival, car 32, will start 5th, after probably what Philippe Albuquerque will report as a disappointing session there. Starting behind 4 other cars. They'll be starting on the same side of the track, on the inside,
yeah, but
on the rolling grid tomorrow.
Looking through the course of practice, that has been about where, in fact, in P2 this morning, 5th was the position that Albuquerque's car was. Yeah. So it is where it is, but anyhow. Nat Berton has plenty to talk about. Don't forget he was a top-line single-seater driver, race winner in GP2, and then he moved across to sports cars, and now he's really starting to wind it up. But that was under pressure. Let's hear. He's down with Charlie George.
Well, Nat, congratulations. A great lap there and the first pole position for Panisport's competition this season.
Yeah, it's just mega. Awesome drive, awesome work from all the team. Engineers did a really good car. They gave me a really good car, mechanics as well. And I think it's just a lot of work since many races, and we learned a lot. We have testing here before. I think it's just mega for everybody. Last race of the season. Obviously, I'm really happy. And it's a good pole, a really nice pole. So I'm very happy.
Well done.
Thank you.
That's also a first pole of the year for a Ligier chassis. I make it. Dragon Speed have had poles, Graf and G-Drive Racing, but they're all Orica 07, so that's the first pole of the year for the Ligier JS P217.
Well, there's the advantage, 0.515 of a second, but then the crews behind, Dragon Speed, G-Drive Racing and Graf, covered by the blink of an eye. Second, third and fourth, very close indeed. Top 5 cars covered by a second, but that really was very impressive from Panisport's competition and the driver at the wheel, Nat Berton.
Yeah, and clearly the session didn't go entirely to plan with a red flag and the off for Algarve Pro Racing, but Andrea Pizzitola was able to qualify the car, 136.286 for the Frenchman in the Portuguese team and the French car, so 12th position that car will start, but the championship battle in LMP2 set to be duked out tomorrow between cars that start 3rd and 5th on the grid. A tremendous qualifying session there with plenty of tales to tell. We'll get some reaction a little bit later on from the press conferences and look forward to the race tomorrow to end the European Le Mans Series for 2017. It's a 1 o'clock start locally here. From Bruce Jones and Johnny Palmer, bye for now. Join us tomorrow.